So good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Workforce Wednesday webinar. This is part 3 in a 3-part series about digital literacy. And so we're excited to be joined again by Jeff Gumas and Jamie Harris from World Education. And they are going to be sharing so many resources with you today. So we're excited for them to present. A couple of housekeeping things before we get started. My name is Kirsten Bayer, and I'm with the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support at Illinois State University. I will be on for moderation and technical support today, so feel free to reach out to me via the chat if you have any questions. Let me go ahead and make sure everyone can participate in the chat, because sometimes my chat likes to be wonky and not let everyone participate. So hopefully everyone can. And then also we have closed captioning on today for your accessibility, if you would like to turn that on. We also will be recording this session, and we will have it up on our Illinois Workforce Academy website, as well as Illinois WorkNet. We'll put it on their website as well within about 48 working hours. We will send out a follow-up survey tomorrow or follow-up email tomorrow with a follow-up survey in it, for today's session, just to see how relevant and practical you felt like today's session was. We love that feedback. And yeah, we welcome you to turn your cameras on, participate fully. We love that. I know Jeff has some participation planned, so we're excited for that. So thank you for joining us. And I'm going to start us off with our just 2 beginning polls. So the first one is, which partner do you best represent? So we appreciate your participation in that. We'll give everyone a couple seconds for that. And then I will put the slides for today in the chat here momentarily, if you would like access to those during today's session to follow along. And you can feel free to participate by unmuting yourself, raising your hand if you have a question, typing in the chat, whatever participation you feel most comfortable with. Jeff and Jamie and I will be monitoring all of the above. So, okay, I'm going to end that. It looks like we have a lot of Title II with us today, which is great. Adult Ed and Family Literacy, and some Title III and I too. So that's awesome to know. And then another quick poll, just which location are you joining us from? Like which part of the state, or if you're even from out of state as well, we'd love to know that just for our analytical purposes. So we'll give everyone a couple seconds for that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end that one. Looks like most of you are from up north, but we have quite a few central people too, and some southern as well. So it's always good to know that we're hitting people from across the whole state, since we're such a long state. So thank you so much, and please reach out to me via the chat if anyone needs anything. And I'm going to hand it off to Jeff to start off.
All right, thank you, Kirsten, and thank you everyone for joining. Good to see everyone today. My name is Jeff Gumas. I am actually also in Chicago, and I am definitely hoping to skip out a little bit this afternoon for a couple of hours to enjoy the nice weather. So thanks for joining on such a beautiful day here in Illinois. So for those of you joining, this is the third of 3 sessions that my colleague Jamie Harris and I have done. Focused on building equitable advancement through digital resilience. And so we've had a series of 3 webinars that first started off just looking at the broad scope of what are digital skills, what is digital literacy, what is digital resilience. And then in week 2, Jamie, which was a couple weeks ago, Jamie shared with everyone, and I can advance to show our faces. There we go. Jamie shared a number of resources that have been developed as part of an Octave-funded initiative that World Education is part of with Jobs for the Future, called Digital Resilience in the American Workforce. So this is a project that's in its final year, and we're launching our third of 3 cohorts this month. Of states who are piloting a series of materials that are already available to everyone training modules, self-assessments, and some of the resources that we're actually going to share today as well, that can be used to build digital resilience in adult education programming. And so today's session specifically is going to focus on two resources in particular, the Digital Skills Library and the Digital Skills Glossary, which have been developed in part through the DRAW initiative, as well as through some of the other initiatives as part of World Education's crowded learning work, which is focused on open education resources. So the great thing about what you're going to learn about today, as Kirsten said, you're going to learn about a lot of different materials that are available. The qualifier there is they are all free. Most of them are also open, which means they are adaptable. So my goal for you today is to talk through what these resources are so you can see them, play with them, give some feedback on them, and then for us to think about how we can use them effectively in integrating digital skills into digital skills instruction, but into all instruction, because as we know in our world today, there are a range of different models for delivering education, and most of those in part use technology in some way, shape, or form. And so considering how can we, by identifying the skills that learners need and finding resources that help develop those skills, how can we effectively be implementing technology within our instruction, but also integrating digital skill instruction with anything we do when we are leveraging technology. So our session is going to follow this flow. First, we're going to dive a little deeper into defining what digital skills are. As I said in the first session, we distinguished between skills and digital literacy and digital resilience. But now we are actually going to get granular in terms of what are the skills that learners need in order to pursue their career goals, their work education goals, their personal goals. And then we're going to look at two of the resources that I mentioned a moment ago, the Digital Skills Library, which contains digital skills resources for teaching digital skills explicitly, as well as a resource called the Digital Skills Glossary, which focuses specifically on the vocabulary of those digital skills. And then we'll consider some strategies for integration. There's a couple of tools that we have, the EdTech Center, that provide opportunities for you to integrate digital skills into your instruction by creating digital skills lessons, as well as a toolkit for integrating digital skills into your everyday classroom routines. And then we're also excited to, this is probably the first state, it is the first state, I think, that we will be announcing not a new framework, but an adaptation of the framework that we're going to be looking at today, called the Bridges framework, which is a digital skills framework that we have adapted to build out more robust tools and resources. So we're not just defining the digital skills, but providing a whole suite of resources that allow you to develop those digital skills in whatever your context is. So as mentioned, we have recordings from the previous two sessions. Session 2 is where Jamie walks through the first 4 things in this list of professional development products as part of the DRAW initiative. But today we're going to focus specifically on the library and the glossary. So now we're going to get into some engagement, and I'm just going to open up the chat so that I can see. Great. Thank you, Kirsten, for sharing the deck. That's helpful. We're going to do a little activity in which we talk about how do we define digital skills. So I am going to start off with an activity. So this is called Question of the Day, and we're going to do this as a chat waterfall. Now, this is an activity that you could do in any class on any topic, but we are going to run it with technology, obviously in Zoom, but there's also going to be other technologies layered into this activity. A chat waterfall, if you're not familiar with it, you can find the answer to the question I'm about to ask, but please do not respond until I say to. So that allows everyone time to find the answer. And then when I say 1, 2, like go, you can add your answer to the chat. So my question of the day is this. What popular magazine's first ever issue was released 99 years ago on this day? Now, do not post your answer in the chat. Please wait. I'm going to give everyone about 30 seconds to find your answer. So what popular magazine's first ever issue was released 99 years ago today? And if you don't know off the top of your head the answer, I will say you probably have access to the answer somewhere right in front of you. And stop there. All right, so on the count of three, when I say three, you are free to post your answer to the chat. And the first person to post the right response gets a bunch of free resources today. I didn't say three, Tiffany. One, two, three. Pursuit of happiness. No. I'm interested in seeing where these answers are coming from. First issue was released 99 years ago on this day. Wow. All right, I'm going to give a hint. This is interesting. You can probably tell from this image. All right, we've got a couple correct answers in here. So it is the New Yorker. The first issue of the New Yorker was released on February 21st, 1925. Now, the hint that I gave you, I guess, was you have the answer, you have access to the answer in front of you, which would be your computer. So hopefully most of you conducted some sort of search as you did that. So what I'm going to do now is, so this was a question of the day where I was asking you to find the answer online. And a couple of you got successful answers. Some of you, I don't know if you found a different answer, so I'm interested in seeing where some of these other answers might have come from. But I'm going to open it up now to a Mentimeter. And if Jamie, you could post in the chat the link to the Mentimeter, thank you. I'm going to exit out of this and go to the Mentimeter here and present. So this is an open response, and if you click on the link in the chat, go ahead and do so now. You're going to get prompted to provide an open-ended answer. So in a question of the day activity where I was asking you to go online to find an answer to a question, what digital skills are being used or developed in an activity such as that? So free form, however you would, whatever you would call those skills that you were just asked to use. Okay, what else? So Google search engine, search online for information. Seeing the term search a lot, that's awesome. Web search, verify information on an internet search page. Search the internet, I'm seeing keywords, awesome. Using search terms, searching, typing, language translation. I was Thank you for being honest. I could have Googled, but I was lazy and just guessed something. I love that. Knowing how to use a browser and a search engine. Jenny, come on. Okay, well, thank you for being more honest. You're even more brave. All right, so we're seeing some of these things in these responses, but now on my next question, what digital skills and terminology, or digital skills terminology and vocabulary would you use in teaching these skills? So a lot of them were little snippets in the skills that you just identified, but like, so one word terms or two word terms, what are the digital skills, the specific vocabulary terms that you'd want learners to know in performing that activity? Like, what are learners doing? They're using a browser. I see search engine, keyword, great. Evaluate, so we're getting into critical thinking skills, typing. And this is a Mentimeter, and so with a Mentimeter, the words that get larger based on responses are the ones that are more frequently being shared. So feel free to just repeat what you see on the screen or add different ones that you want. You should be able to answer more than once. But yeah, these are all things that you actually had identified within the skills that you mentioned. Search engine, evaluate, browser, search is in a few different forms here. Keywords, check. I like seeing check. I like seeing evaluate because that's getting into some more critical thinking. So sources also gets into that. Great. Awesome. So what we just did was talk about the digital skills in a very basic activity that you could run at any time, as well as the digital skills vocabulary that is being done in that activity. And the point of today is to look at two resources that support that explicit digital skill instruction as well as the development of this digital skill vocabulary. So I'm going to escape out and go back here. And just using exactly what you just shared within the Mentimeter, when we think about an activity like that, it's a fun activity. You might just do that on the fly as like some sort of question of the day or person of the day or event from the past. That's just fun because it's a great icebreaker, but it also gets at some really critical digital skills. And so one of the things that I always say when we're talking about digital skills instruction or any instruction is you need to be explicit. Like we can't assume that students by osmosis are, when they're using a technology, inherently going, I now know how to do X. We have to use the terminology in order to do that. Same thing with math. With math instruction, being explicit with vocabulary helps them internalize what procedures they're actually doing when performing calculations, when solving problems. And so questions you might ask students when you run an activity like this are, how did you find the answer? What type of application is Google? So Google is an internet browser, or excuse me, search engine. What web browser did you use? So I'll just ask that question actually. So freeform in the chat, what web browser did you use to conduct your search? And you can just do that in the chat. Chrome, probably a lot. Someone used Bing, Safari. Wow. So now I could ask, hey, so it looks like Christine used Safari. So what do we know about Christine and the computer that she's using? She's using a Mac. And so now when we're talking about digital resilience, so Mac is a brand of computer. It has its own operating system, and the browser that it is default using is Safari, whereas Microsoft machines tend to use Bing. It's the same tool. It performs the same functions of browsing the web, and that's how we start getting into digital resilience, is understanding that these applications perform the same functions. They might look different, they might have some different features, but more or less they're intended to perform the same functions and features or have the same features. And so understanding that transferability is a really important bridge that we take from just the digital skills and the digital vocabulary into the digital resilience. So what search terms or keywords did you use? I'm interested in that because we had such a variety of answers. So when you conducted your search, what terms did you use? If you can think back. And please answer that in the chat. You just posted the actual question. That's great because that is, and Pamela, you, if I recall, got the correct answer, but then filtered on time. Great, yeah. So popular first issue. So Tiffany rephrased it. So some of you used the question, some of you did not. I actually had difficulty writing the question because I was like, wait, is it 99 or 101? Because it was 1925. And I kept confusing, like, wait, which way am I going with math? And I'm pretty good at math. I was very sad about that. But we note that you have um, oh, and great, Pamela. Yeah, once I posted the image, you could have done an image search on that, and that obviously would have gotten you there very quickly. Um, but which keywords you're using really impacts what you get for answers. We have much more natural language ability to find content. When I run this, particularly in in-person sessions where people are doing this on their phone, this next question really trips people up because they don't know the answer. It's like it's the first thing that popped up in Google. And so these last two questions on what website, how do you know it's a valid source? And obviously you can see I'm highlighting the vocabulary here. This is where sometimes the breakdown happens because this is where the digital literacy is coming in. And this is where the critical thinking and the evaluating online sources and the validity of sources comes into play. And we're so conditioned, particularly on our phone, to just, oh, the first thing that pops up must be the correct answer. And so this is a great activity for helping students understand their search results, understand why these things are showing up first in some cases, but then learning how to sift through that information. So that's an activity that integrates digital skills and integrates digital skills vocabulary. And as we talked about in the first week, and as we tend to know, in other subject areas, we have clarity from the state or from WIOA in terms of the skills and the standards and the frameworks that we are supposed to use to define the skills that we are teaching. So in the chat, I'm going to ask you to just indicate for digital skills maybe, or for other subject areas like math or reading or language or humanities topics, what frameworks do you use to guide your instructional focus? So what do you use to define any skill you teach? Whether it be you're a math teacher, or a reading teacher, or an ESOL teacher, what are the guiding frameworks or standards that you use to frame your instruction? Or tests, even. So you're teaching a math lesson. You just go, I want to teach fractions today. What are your guiding frameworks for teaching the skills that you teach with your learners? Everybody? Okay, so we have employability skills, we have Illinois Adult Ed content standards, ABSA, and so ISTE is one of the guiding documents for, say, digital skills. Any other digital skills frameworks that you're using? I know that the ESOL standards have some technology standards embedded within them, and that I feel like is somewhat problematic because of how it assumes that your language level indicates how good you can use a computer. But anything else? So I'm seeing some specific skills, and that's great. But yeah, I'm looking for frameworks, and that's okay if we don't have anything out of our pockets here to respond with. So with the DRAW initiative and a lot of our work at World Education, we recognized very early on that if we're going to support organizations in developing digital skills with their learners, one of the missing pieces is clear definition of what the skills are that we are supposed to teach. And that could be because you're an adult ed program and you know you're supposed to be integrating digital skills. That could be because you're any sort of service provider and you know that you need to be preparing your students for the workplace. That the conversation around what are the skills that we should be developing so that we are setting our learners up for success is a challenging one because there's no clear definition or regulation in terms of what we're supposed to be using. It's also a challenge for our Title II providers that we know that a lot of your funding is dependent on tests in reading and math. And so one of the things that we've been very focused on is landing on a framework that we can use to develop out our professional development resources and our curricular resources, so that we have a guiding document and guideposts in terms of what skills you actually embed into your instruction. And those skills help us then like determine what language we should be focusing on and what vocabulary. So 4 years ago, more than that, 5 years ago at this point, we were introduced to a framework called the Seattle Digital Equity Initiative Digital Skills Framework. And so Jamie has pasted that into the chat. And this is a framework of 75 skills across 10 domains. And so we've been using this as our resource for defining digital skills within the field and within our professional development. And one of the things that we really like about this framework is I call it the Goldilocks framework because it's actually a comparison framework. So this actually came out of a report from the Seattle Digital Equity Initiative, which is part of the City of Seattle and the University of Washington, where they were trying to answer this question, what skills are important? And the way they went about that is they looked at a whole host of different frameworks and assessments that are used to define digital skills. That includes the ISTE standards for students. That includes the North Star Digital Literacy Assessment, which you may be familiar with. And in comparing all of these different frameworks and assessments, they identified which skills were most frequently called upon in terms of the skills that learners need. And so that is what formed the basis of these 75 skills and these 10 domains. What's nice about it is it allows us to crosswalk back to the frameworks and the assessments that were used to create this. And so we're going to talk about a little bit later about how we've been developing some resources to do crosswalks to things like ISTE and to North Star, so that if you're using North Star, you can actually map back to the Seattle framework to understand what skills are being developed. And so just a quick walkthrough of the skills and domains really that are in the Seattle framework. But I am going to open up what Jamie shared just so you can see. Oh, it's saying it's a suspicious link. Jamie, what did you share? It should be fine. I hope you didn't get that. So this is the working document that we are using, and I'm going to share in a second that we were about to do a big update of this. And I see a lot of you are in there, so that's great. So this is again a comparison framework, and here are all of the skills and domains, and the domains are listed in alphabetical order here. I'm going to walk through them in kind of groupings in a moment, but I want you can feel free to just listen to me, watch, or scan through these skills. And a couple moments, I'm going to ask you to consider which of these domains you feel are most important for your learners. So in terms of the way that we've structured this framework, the first set of domains is the foundational skills domain. So gateway skills look at things like using a mouse, understanding the parts of your computer and operating systems. It does also include some basic skills like getting an email account and sending and receiving email. Even though those are communication skills, they're just pretty foundational. You need an email account in order to get an account on any application or cloud-based application or online tool. And so it really is a foundational skill, even outside of the communication functions it performs. It's something that one needs to exist digitally. Mobile skills are those skills that for many of our learners we know are mobile dependent. And so what are the skills one needs in order to be effective in using mobile devices for common tasks? Device ownership looks at whether it's a computer, whether it's a tablet, whether it's a phone. What are the skills one needs in order to maintain that device, in order to troubleshoot when issues arise? And then privacy and security looks at practices that one should understand are necessary to remain safe, to protect their identity within a digital and within an online world. So these we consider foundational skills for anyone using technology. Then there's a bucket of productivity skills. And so this looks at communication skills. How do we communicate with technology? Creation skills. How can we use technology to create content, to create media and share it in the world? And then workplace skills, and productivity skills. So how do people use technologies in the workplace, as well as how do people use technologies for advancing in one career, finding a job, things of that nature, and choosing the right technology for a particular task. And then finally, independent learning skills. So online life, understanding what being online gives you access to. It is funny when you ask a question of the day and some people stare at you at a conference and go, well, I don't know how to find the answer. And it's like, but you do, because it's right here in this phone. And so understanding what one has access to when they have access to the internet. Information skills, really important as well. Obviously, and being able to evaluate information and to understand the validity of sources. And then lifelong learning, recognizing that one's skills need to evolve over time. This is more general, but in a digital world, we become very obsolete very quickly if we are not staying up to date on the skills that we need in order to function with the technologies that are being used and that many people are being pushed to, whether or not they want to in their work, even in their life. Accessing services, much of that is online. And so understanding that you need to be developing skills continuously. So one more question in the Mentimeter, I'm going to hop over. So if you closed it, I should have let you know to keep it open. But I'm gonna, can I copy this? Oh, I can. Look at that. Thank you, Jamie. I'm going to hop over to the Mentimeter and advance to, I love seeing word walls grow. I'm going to advance to the next screen. I think I'm going to advance to the next screen. Here we go. So in thinking about the 10 domains that I just shared with you, I want you to select which 3 you feel are most important. So you should have the option, you should see all 10 of these choices on screen. Which 3 do you feel are the most important? And there's no right answer. This is definitely a curiosity question. And I did specify in the question for learners. All right, let's see. We have 30 participants, 12 have answered. I'm going to get to see if we can get to halfway. So we're at halfway, but keep it going. Which 3 domains do you feel are most important? Look, we have some clear winners here at the halfway point. So please feel free to keep answering. But the top 3 that seem to have emerged, although now we've got a little horse race for 3rd place, are communication, privacy and security, and gateway skills. That's not uncommon in terms of these being high priority areas. Great. And that actually tracks with some of the work that we've been doing in the Draw project. So that's really interesting as well. All right, so now we're going to dive into the free resources that you have to teach these skills. So as I mentioned, we have this great digital skills library, and the digital skills library, which Jamie just pasted the link in the chat, is a open library. Unfortunately, there's some filtering capabilities that I am in the process of trying to fix in it, but it's still very functional in its current state. But this is a resource that we actually developed through a process called our EdTech Makerspace. And when you go to the library, just so you know, you don't have to tuck away any of the links that we share today, because they are all on this website. So once you're here, bookmark this page, put it wherever you need. Everything we talk about actually is right here in the Digital Skills Library, including that framework. So we aligned this library to the framework. So that framework document that I shared a moment ago is right here. And then you're going to see here's this library, and then you see all of the 10 domains that we just talked about earlier are listed here. So you can click on any of these domains and you can see the specific skills that are part of that. Which one was our winner? Communication was one of them. So here I can see communication skills. And so say I wanted to find all of the resources that are focused on communicate effectively. I can just type in co.1 because that's up here. And then this is going to filter to all of the resources that deal with communicate effectively. And you can see there's resources in English and Spanish. You can click view more. It only has like 12 at a time, but if we keep clicking, there's a lot of resources in here that focus on communication. You can see with various tools and from various sources. When you click on any of these, it pops up and well, okay, yeah, great. All right, I'm so sorry. We've got an issue with this platform. Oh, I have my work cut out for me. Oh no. All right, actually, let me go to home to see if this works. I'm so sorry. This is a website building tool that we use, and it seems to have some issues. Okay, that's sad. Well, in reality, when you click on any of these, as you can see, it is populating with things, but for some reason, these pop-ups are not working. Give me 2 days, these will work. You're gonna have a workaround in order to be able to see these resources. In reality, you should be able to click on these and see the preview. If there's a video, there's a link to the video. You can see all of the skills that the resource is aligned to. I promise you, you're going to have access to all of these resources in a different way that I'm going to show you momentarily. But that, sadly, is the Digital Skills Library that does not seem to be working now because of some website updates that I need to troubleshoot. Okay, well, just so you know, the standards framework that I've been talking about, what a disappointment. The Seattle framework is being adapted by us into what's called the Bridges framework. And I'm going to talk about that at the very end of today in about 20 minutes, very quickly, so you can get a preview of what that is. But it's the same exact skills, it's the same domains. We've just added more information and more examples of what these skills look like in action. All right, so that really derailed my day today. Just so you know how the Digital Skills Library was developed, and this is not on the technology side, this is on the content side. It was run through, and I see some people on the call today who were part of this process called the EdTech Makerspace. And so what we did was look at high quality resources that we know are being used to develop digital skills. And we worked with teachers to become pseudo experts in different domains. And then with that focus, look at the skills within the domain, look at those resources like GCF Learn Free, like digitallearn.org, which comes from the Public Library Association, or Google Applied Digital Skills, and align content to those skills. So here's a whole set of e-modules from the Public Library Association that align to getting an email account. Here's a great article with little interactive pop-ups on the parts of an email from GCF Learn Free. There's also videos in those resources. And then here is a project-based activity from Google Applied Digital Skills on that. And the reason we developed this library was you all may have been aware that these different resources existed in different places, but you have to go to each one of those places and then sift through to find something that you might want to use. By aggregating these and working with teachers to do so and building a library that typically works, you can get all of them in one place, see them all in one place, figure out which resource might work best for your students. Public libraries materials tend to be more basic. GCF Learn Free's materials tend to be more text heavy. One of the things that we learned was people really like the videos, but if they were talking about if I was going to use GCF Learn Free with ESOL students, I might just share the video because the video amidst all of this text is a little bit overwhelming. It's a bit of cognitive overload. And so just being able to identify a particular resource that you feel works well with your learners, the beauty of that then is in the library or in that resource itself, you can search by a particular skill and then just say, I only want the GCF Learn Free articles and videos because my learners seem to really like those. And so we just wanted to provide options, but also provide that alignment to these skills. And then as part of our draw initiative, we worked with teachers and did a whole landscape scan to identify which of the Seattle skills were most critical as identified by subject matter experts and through surveys and other means. And these were the 13 skills that were identified through that process. And then we ran another makerspace to find more resources specific to these particular skills and wanted to find things that were included more language options and more format options like games and videos and things along those lines. So in that library, again, once it's up again, there are over 1,800 learning activities, including, as you saw, at least from little previews, Spanish language and additional languages as well. And we also identified in that process that there's a definite need for more language-focused resources, which is why we ended up developing a digital skills glossary, as well as more support on skill application and relevance. So there's great resources on saying, here's how you do this thing, but okay, why would I want to do this thing? And so that's why we've been building out the resources. So unfortunately, we can't do this activity because you can't actually see the resources. But I'll show you how to do that a different way in a second. But first, I want to actually first ask, do you have any questions on the library? If you can imagine a world where it's actually working and all of those tiles open up activities, how might you use the library? Or just do you have general questions about the library? Feel free to unmute yourself or post a comment or a question in the chat. And it's okay if you don't, because I literally just showed you nothing. All right, I'm going to advance to the next screen. Just an explanation. So all of those records are in what's called Airtable. We used a website builder tool. Do all the GCF lessons have videos now? Not all of the GCF lessons have videos. You're actually going to see some GCF lessons in a second. But a lot of them do. And in the library, that's the great thing. It indicates if it's just the article or the article plus the video. I love these suggestions. So have students choose their own adventure learning. Maybe prompting a student to pick a skill they want to learn, helping them understand how to plug that in and have them explore resources and identify, do you see a particular thing that is helpful for you so that you can help the student connect to a resource that might be effective for them? And that's the whole point. We're not necessarily saying use the library all the time or use our skill blocks application, which we're going to look at in a second. The point is to connect a learner with a resource that's actually going to be effective for them. So that's a great idea. Choose their own adventure. This will be a great resource to share with. Great, awesome. Yeah, so again, it is very easy to use once the tiles are working correctly. So excellent. Okay, here is another resource that we're really excited was developed also by educators. This is actually entirely educator generated through our makerspace, and it's called the Digital Skills Glossary. And if you recall, on the Digital Skills Library page, I said everything is there. So one of the tabs up on the top is the Digital Skills Glossary. So you can go ahead and click on that. And we can share the chat as well and the link in the chat as well in a second. But just so you know what this is, there are over 350 digital skills terms in the glossary, and this was generated entirely by educators. So all of the resources are available in Google Docs formats so that you can download them into Microsoft formats or as PDFs, or make copies of them if you are a Google user, but super flexible and super adaptable. So all 350 terms, there is a slide for that term, and it includes an image, it includes the word in a sentence, it includes a definition, it includes a link to audio so students can hear the term. And we offer those alphabetically so you can find terms and build your own slide decks, or thematically. So in this case, here's productivity software. All of the terms that deal with productivity software are there, but these are completely copyable so that you can mix and match and use these as you see fit. So there are 4 parts of it. There's the slides that I mentioned, and again, one is from A to Z. One is thematic, so organized by those topic areas. There's also an instructor guide that has guidance on how to use the Digital Skills Glossary, as well as activities that you can do to focus on building digital resilience. And then there's an index, which is a Google Sheet file, which has all of the terms and the definitions and even the source of the definitions. But what's nice is it's in rows and columns with terms and definitions. So if you use a tool like Flippity or you use a tool like Quizlet, you can easily just copy and paste those into those tools and develop vocabulary activities pretty quickly, because the format allows for you to do that immediate copy pasting. So the content in the glossary is organized a little bit differently because we recognize, one, there's a lot of overlap of terms across domains, but these are more topical in terms of the way that they're organized. We've added a set of terms on artificial intelligence. We've also added a set of terms on digital equity, and then some of the common things that you would expect to see in a set of themes around digital literacy are listed here. So let me just hop up into the glossary so you can see what it looks like. So again, this is digitalskillslibrary.org. You just go to Digital Skills Glossary. And here are those 4 resources. So I'll just open the thematic slides so you can just see what these look like. Whoops, I didn't mean to click share. I meant to click present. Escape. So this is very navigable. And so the way that it's been built is here's that menu of different themes. And so I can go to, say, artificial intelligence. And here we go. I click, here are the terms. This can bring me back to the main page. This you can actually download as a PDF. So it can be an offline resource that students can do the same navigation in that PDF. But what you'll see is here's the definition, here is it in a basic sentence, and then this actually brings folks to, in most cases, Google Pronounce so that they can hear the word and they can practice the word. Algorithm. So we were introduced to this tool by people who participated in previous makerspaces, and so we added this as a feature in all of the slides within the slide deck. So again, there's 350 terms. You can download this, copy paste them however you see fit. And then there's this, the index, which has all of the terms, and I'm just going to show the guide really quickly, also downloadable. So you can take it, adapt it how you want to use it, bookmark things within it. This is nice that it has this navigation here on the left, but I can go to things like navigation. And here are the terms in that. Here are the related skills from that framework I just shared. And then here are different ideas. Hey, Lori Hoffman, she's from Illinois, for activities that you could run to build digital resilience by helping students understand the vocabulary around these digital skills. And when we're talking about that digital resilience, the way that we structured that was having teachers think about these strategies. So all of these activities incorporate one of these strategies. So building visual recognition. I just gave instruction, actually, Xavier Munoz, I think, is on this call. He is. Hi, Xavier. You're actually going to see something that he created in a moment. And I asked him to make an update to it. I don't know if he has, and that's fine if he hasn't. But I just said, just click the share icon to do a thing that I was asking him to do. That's an icon that you see in Skill Blocks, which is the tool that I was just having him think about, in Google Docs, in Padlet, which we're about to jump into a Padlet. All of those tools have share. And so understanding that these are ubiquitous images or icons that speak the language of digital skills is an important part of digital resilience. So when you see it, you have an expectation of what's going to happen when you click on it. And so these are different things. What are common features and functions? Understanding that copy paste is almost always in the edit menu of any tool that you're using, and there's also specific icons that would be used for those. So understanding what these common features and functions are and what they look like across new contexts, and even activities that just ask students to experiment and maybe leverage some of their understanding of these common features and these common icons to do so. So those are the type of activities that are in the Digital Skills Glossary. And this is the structure of all of them. So there's always a title and strategy and who created it. This is actually the activity guide for the question of the day. So these are the terms that you can use in running that activity. These are the digital skills that were developed in that activity from that Seattle framework. And then this is how you would run that activity. So you could pull these specific slides from the glossary. So the first time you do a question of the day, understand and explicitly teach those terms and understand the skills that students are doing in the process, and then run that as a regular activity. So that's the other thing, is we try to design these things in ways that are more routine, that you can do them on a regular basis. Here are some others that were developed. So using images responsibly, so helping students understand copyright and understand what fair use and copyright mean. This is a great activity in doing a social media gallery walk where students actually think about, like, what are these common features and functions across different social media tools, so they understand terms like post and follow and like, and what that means in different contexts. I'm going to skip ahead because I just want to get to some final things, and also a resource that will actually allow you to explore these digital resources called Skill Blocks. So as you probably can see, like, the things that I just shared are very explicit and focused on digital skills. And it allows you to find and pick and choose different activities, these single activities that you might use to teach those digital skills explicitly with students, as well as teach the vocabulary. World Education has a platform called Skill Blocks that allows you to actually sequence those different activities into lessons or even just resource sets. So if you found 3 great activities on, say, setting up an email account that you wanted to share with learners, you could use Skill Blocks to actually select those activities, create a skill block, and then share it with students. Here's an example of a skill block that has a sequence of activities from those materials that are in the library for posting on social media. So I'm going to share a Padlet, and don't know that we're going to have a ton of time for this. We're not. But the slides have this link, and you have access to the slides that Kirsten shared. And I'm just going to open this up real quick so we can, Xavier, thanks, take a look at that. But these are 5 skill blocks that were created by teachers in an EdTech makerspace, including Xavier Munoz, and this is his. I will share it with you now. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Here's the link to the skill blocks. So Skill Blocks is a free tool, and he developed this great activity lesson on scrolling on social media. And so he built in a poll on just identifying, like, which social media tools do students use. So this is something he created, but then he pulled this lesson from GCF Learn Free, or now called GCF Global, on scrolling and why we can't stop scrolling. So this has an article and a video. And then he has a quiz and assessment check and pull from that article and from students thinking about how their own use of social media. And then he has an exit ticket that he also built that goes that is in his skill block in terms of having students like think about these things. So instead of just these individual activities, skill blocks allows you to actually string these things together. I'm going to share another one just to consider things like branching out into other skills beyond digital skills. So this is actually a skill block that I created, but was actually based on the work of another teacher in one of our makerspaces. So she had the great idea of taking from digitallearn.org, there's a whole course on searching videos on YouTube. So teaching students this, and then this was part of a Teaching Skills That Matter makerspace. So then she developed a Padlet where she posed these different scenarios that students might encounter. This is one, your battery dies. This is one where you need to sew a button. This is actually one that I am committed to doing because I have a coat that has 2 buttons that have fallen off. I don't know how to sew a button, so I'm going on YouTube and I found a video. I just need to do it. And then this is someone who hurts his finger and needs to splint his finger. So these are just real world scenarios. Students completed a set of activities on searching videos for YouTube, and then the goal in this activities is for students to find a video on YouTube that they could use to solve the problem. And so this gets at critical thinking skills, solving problems, evaluating information. Just a great real world example of why YouTube is such a great tool for finding information and finding out how to do things. And then I built like I don't think this, I hate when it does this. I built an activity. This is good because this is not something that you would necessarily see. I don't know my password right now. I'm drawing a blank. I'm just going to pause on that. But this is one where I have them come up with their own scenario and find the answer to a question they have and find the answer on YouTube. So Skillbox allows you to pull these things together, and I'll just show you real quickly. It is a free application. You can create an account, and once you have created an account, it's very similar to the Digital Skills Library in terms of the searching by the framework, but I can do an open keyword search. So if I wanted to find something on YouTube, here are all of the activities that have things on YouTube, or I can search by framework, and I would go to digital skills, but it also has these other areas. And these are those skills and domains. And again, I can find different activities. And in this case, when I save them, they go into this skill block. I can rearrange them. As you saw in the skill blocks I shared, I can add notes. And then I can share this with students. This is the share icon that I didn't give Xavier an image because I knew he would know where the share icon was, because this is a share icon. This is a print icon, a copy icon. So it's that digital resilience. But this is a great tool that allows you to build these integrated lessons that can take the digital skills content and even civics content, health literacy, et cetera, and pull them together. All right, so I know we are at time, and I just want to make sure you're aware of what is coming soon in terms of that update to the skills framework that I shared. So we recognize that just having the skills framework wasn't enough. And we also recognize that we've built all of these different things that use those skills, but people don't know that there's a toolkit for integrating them into your instruction, that there's the library, that there's the glossary, that there's skill blocks. And so the Bridges framework is designed to help pull all those things together so people are really aware how to use all of these different resources for digital skills instruction. So we still have the same skills from Seattle, but we added definitions and more relevant examples and more supporting resources as part of this. So one of the great adds, I think, to this is for every single skill, we provide examples of what this skill looks like in life, in work, in education, and as a teacher, so that there's more tangibility to what posting on social media looks like. There's also more possibility for what could you ask a student to do to see if they have that skill, getting into more task-based opportunities for students demonstrating or self-assessing their skills. We've pulled in all of the vocabulary, so each domain has a list of all of the vocabulary, as well as different tools that students might use in work, in life, in school, or as tools that you could use in instruction to help students build those skills. We have the library in there. Another resource that there's just not enough time to get into, and I wasn't planning on it today, but this is linked in the slides, is our EdTech Integration Toolkit. So this is a toolkit that has about 50 routines in it, and these are just classroom strategies. They don't have anything to do with digital skills. It's something you would do like a KWL, or having students post their answers in an online bulletin board. But it helps identify why you would do this activity, what digital skills it provides examples of doing, so that you can build in that explicit instruction. If you're having students post to a Padlet or using Jamboard, they're collaborating with technology. If it's a Padlet and you give them commenting opportunities, that's like posting on social media. So talking about the skills that students are doing in the midst of any type of tech-based activity. We also built out a set of checklists for self-assessment. So in the glossary already, or excuse me, in the library, there is this checklist of which skills are important for different user types, another adaptable resource that you can play around with and adjust. But we've also added self-assessments, so opportunities for students to just self-assess, because we've heard over and over again, for some learners, North Star is a little too intimidating, but something like a self-assessment would be really helpful. So these are also adaptable. They're in print form and also Google Forms options, so that you can make a copy of the Google form and again, adapt it as you see fit. And then we've also added crosswalks. So if you use North Star, we have crosswalks now to that Seattle, the Bridges framework, so that you could use the library, you could use skill blocks to work on the skills that might be identified for students needing to work on from their North Star test. And so this is what that looks like. And that is it. I know we're about a couple minutes over time. I'm so sorry. I will fix the digital skills library, I promise, because it's a little bit more problematic than I first thought it was, with this little site update that we need to catch up with. But are there any questions? I'm happy to stick around. And if not, thank you all for today. And if you've been to the other sessions, thank you for joining us for this 3-session series.
Thank you so much, Jeff and Jamie.
I know Jamie had to hop off. So yeah, I can stick around if there's any questions. If you want to ask it out loud, feel free. But it looks like, I think it's probably information overload.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. I just wanted to do some follow-up. So again, this session was recorded and you can view all 3 recordings on our website. I can put that in the chat, but it'll also be in the follow-up email as well. And it'll also be on Illinois WorkNet's website too. You can access all of the Workforce Wednesday webinars on Illinois WorkNet or on our website, which is illinoisworkforceacademy.com. And the slides from today will also be linked there. And then you'll receive a follow-up email tomorrow with the follow-up survey, with also the URL where you can access the recording and slides from today. Awesome. Looks like everyone's really loving all the resources. So thank you so much, Jeff, for all your time and dedication to this 3-part series. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everyone, for your attendance. I hope you found it valuable. And everyone have a great rest of your Wednesday. Enjoy this beautiful weather.
Go outside.